we're going to do an item list refresher. This is a way of showing objects, usually pages, in grids or in lists, so grids side by side in a grid style, or down the page in a list style, by picking individual pages. So I say, oh, this page and this page and this page, and I want to show a little bit of information from those pages in a box. We'll then look at creating automatically updated grids and lists, or just kind of simple ways of grabbing those pages using filtered item lists. So it's a way of sorting and filtering information to display in boxes that we call includelets, and it's the filtered item list includelet. So an example of this might be, well, it could be any of them, but Superhighways, for example, this How We Help section, each of these rows are two what are called item lists. So it shows a little bit of information. So there's some text about what that page is going to be about. There's an image, which is in this case is an icon, but doesn't matter what it is, could be photos. And there's a link through to the page. And if I click on it, it takes me through to that page. And then again, so there's 4 things in this. There are 4 pages that are being linked to in the first row and 4 pages in the second row. And it's called an item list, which again, it's getting used to the language. But if you think about like putting items in a list, but we can also put them in a grid like this. So we can put them side by side. We can also put them down the page. This here, where you've got an image on the right and you've got a little bit of information and a link like this, is you could do the same thing. It's just a different styling option, that's all, for a box. So we're going to add one of those now. So there are certain things to think about with this. One is, if I come back to Superhighways, this is not like the carousel grid. I'm not typing this into a content block. So I didn't type this. This information comes from the page. So this is the title, this is the subtitle, and this is the image attached to the page. So I'm just going to show you what I mean by that now. So let's say on my test page now, I want to link to about and news. So let's say I'm going to create a grid of 2 instead of 4, just a bit faster. So instead of doing 4 like Superhighways like this, 4 things side by side, I'm going to go for just 2. So I want those to link through to the about page and the news page. So the information that it will take, the item list will take from is here. So if I come to the about page into the edit tab, remember this is the full title about us. You can see I've put it in as an example. I wouldn't usually do that, but the title would be about us and why Superhighways 2 matters. My menu title is about, and I've got a subtitle on the page. So that information exists on the page already. The other thing I'll need is the image. So the image we'll come back to in a moment, but it will be in the relations tab for this page. So you can actually, I've got one in already for about, so there's an image here called Kingfisher. So in the edit tab, that's my title, that's my subtitle. And in the relations tab, I have an image. Let's go to my news page. Let's go to edit. The full title is news. There's a subtitle, latest news, how-tos and updates. And in the relations tab for this page, yes, I've already added a blackbird. So I've actually added, let me just come to my relations. I've got a kingfisher already and in the news page, I've got a blackbird. I'm actually going to remove those for the sake of now. So I'm going to take that off and I'm going to come to because you won't have them yet, these images I'm going to remove. So now all I've got is which already exists, the new and the subtitle. So I've got a title and subtitle. And they are published. So I'm going to come back to my test page and go into the layout tab again. And I'm going to create a new revision to make changes. And this time when I add includelet, I'm looking for an item list. So sorry for the scrolly. We're going to look for an item list. And as it says, create a list or a grid with images to other pages on your site or pages on external websites. So I click on item list, and you'll see you get similar display modes. I'm going to make this inline, and I'll give it a title so we know what it is. Example of an item list. So I'm just putting that in so we know what it is. You may call it something else. I could have a description if I wanted to. Here's some info and links to other pages. Ignore the graphic, just ignore that. I choose list mode. So what do I want this to look like? Basically, it's the same thing. So how do I want it to display? I'm going to choose grid 2 again, wide mobile 1. Now this time, instead of adding content blocks, I'm simply choosing the pages I want to put in there. So I'm going to add page, and all I need to do, it will bring up my sitemap. All I need to do is click on the page that I want. So I wanted to put the about page in this grid. So I click on about, and I also wanted to put add page and news. So I'm going to choose news. There we go. And then I've got some other display options. So I want to display the title and subtitle from the pages. We had a look at those. And I also want to show the image, which I've removed and we're going to put back in. So I want to show the title and subtitle, want to show the related image. There's some other image decisions I can make, but I'm just going to click on Save Changes for now and Publish. And I'm going to move it to the top so we can see it as well, just to make it easier, and Publish. So let's go see what that looks like. So here's my item list. That was on the page itself, subtitle. Those are the subtitles showing, those are the full titles showing. And there's a read more link, but you can see there's no images there yet because I removed them. We'll start looking at filtered item lists. So item lists, I said, as you've realized now, when you're doing an item list, all you're doing is saying, I want to have a box and I want very specific pages, which is really useful if you want to take pages from different sections to put in that grid or in that list. There's 3 different ways filtered lists can be used, and I would say only the first 2 are actually worth using now. One of them is just to say, I want to display everything from this whole section. It's a really quick and easy way of just going, I want to show everything below this page. The other way is to do it by keywords and say, I want to get a little bit complicated now. I want to kind of look at how the visitor as well might be able to use keywords to look through that information. I'll come on to that a bit later. The third way is to relate pages to one another. But I think because now we have an item list and we have the grid and the accordion ways of creating that, we don't need related pages. So let's get started with the most basic of lists. I say basic, it still feels quite complicated. And it's just a commands box. But the thing with the filtered item list is it's quite long. There's a lot you have to turn on, off and on to make it work. So I'm glad we did that a little bit with the item list. I'm going to use my About Us page to do it, and I'll come on to that later. So my About Us page, you can see here it's got team, trustees, mission and vision, our impact, annual reviews. I've got 5 pages here that exist underneath that. And they've all, great information. I could just have a drop down. That page for me at the moment is empty, apart from a little bit of some paragraph text. So I want a way of linking through to those pages from here. And the filtered item list would just do that automatically for me. So I'm going to go into the layout tab for About Us, create a new revision to make changes, add includelet. And I'm going to scroll down, and it's called the filtered item list. So we used items, putting items side by side or in a list. Now we're filtering for that. And you get the similar, it's the same modes. So I can choose whether I want it in a box or not. I'm going to have it as inline. I'm going to give it a title so I know what it is, but you could use something. Here's more about what we do. Here we are. There we go. So I put in a title, ignore this. List mode, I want it as, I'm going to have it as grid 3 mobile one. Let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to put it in a grid of 3. So the first thing I need to do with the filtered item list is tell it where I need it to pull the pages from, like where's this section that I'm going to use. And that's called the parent item. So it's parent and children. That's how it works. You'll see that across any other website platform as well. It's just website language. We talk about parents and children. So the parent is the section I want this to take pages from. So I could just leave it as here. So as it says, select items below here. If you leave this blank, it uses the current page. So I don't even need to choose a parent item because it's the About Us page, and the pages I want to show in that grid or list, bits of information from them, are actually in that section. I don't need it from anywhere else. So I'm going to leave that as blank because I don't actually need to choose one. The items to select are its children. It's all the things that exist underneath it. We'll have a look at the others in a moment. And that's it. So you can ignore content type for now. You can ignore all of this and keywords. If you want to have a publish date or an end date, if you're using lots and lots and lots of pages, then perhaps that would be interesting. But I think most people don't use that, to be honest. And then you see the same display modes you saw before for the item list. So I'm going to choose title and subtitle and related image because I want to show the image. I'm going to left align my subtitle. So I don't want it centered. I want it to look like it's on the left. I'll leave the read more link and let's put the author in just to see what that looks like. Not that it matters for this, but we'll have that anyway. Related image size full. I'm going to have, let's have 4:3 postcard this time. I'm going to leave this. I'll come back to this in a moment, but there's some different orders that you can use. I'm going to leave it in sitemap order. And sitemap order means, if I come back up to the top, it means in that grid, they will be in exactly the order of this page order. So team, trustees, mission, our impact, annual reviews, it will put it in that order. That's the sitemap. So that's how they'll display. So I'll leave the sitemap order for now. Ignore this. Ignore all of this for now. I'm just going to leave that as they are. Ignore all of that, and we'll come back to that later. So all I want you to do for now is choose a filtered item list, give it a title just so that you can find it nice and easily. You can leave it blank. Choose a mode for it. How do you want it to display? And then pick a section from your site. So if you've got news pages or a section that's got lots of pages underneath, use that. If not, then you could just use your test pages. So you could say just or leave it blank if you're on your test page, so that testing 1 and testing 2, your test pages are the ones that get filtered. So it's up to you what you choose. But if you want to, you can select that parent item and then go pick that page. So I didn't need to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway and pick About Us. Leave the rest of it all the same, and then just choose your item display mode. So just tick some of these on and off and see what they look like, and then save changes. And we'll come back to the other options in a moment. So that's the first thing. Let's go see what that looks like. I'm going to publish. And hopefully that will have popped those in for me. And there we go. Okay, it's left aligned. That's because I left aligned my subtitle. That's why I've only got a tiny image on the left-hand side. And in a grid, that doesn't make quite so much sense. It would make better sense in a list. But for now, I'm going to leave that as it is. You can see here, it's pulling the subtitles through. It's put my author in, and I didn't hide the read more link. It's put the image on the left, and it's left aligned this text. If I scroll down to the bottom of page, you might have seen there was a little link for pagination, which is the default is no. If you tick it to yes, it brings up these kinds of buttons at the bottom. And because these are news stories, people can click through to the next pages. So it's just, that's what pagination is. It just goes, here's grouping some things so that when there's lots of them, it just helps people shorten the page a bit and people can move through it in a different way. This on the left-hand side is another includelet. It's another box called a filtered item keyword list. And it's a very small box. There's not many commands in it. You just choose how you want it to display. And this basically picks up on any keywords that are being used on these pages. So I'll just show you what it looks like in the background. So this is my latest page. And if I go to the layout tab and look at this, I've renamed this includelet. I'm just going to click on add includelet for a moment. I chose the filtered item list keywords includelet. That was the includelet I used alongside that. I cancel and go back and just double click to open that one. It's in a panel. I renamed it, gave it a title, chose the parent items as latest. And then that's all I did because it's picking up on keywords from each of those pages. So if I go to the latest, so that's, I'll just come back out of that. That's just the extra little includelets list. But you've got to think, well, where's it picking it from? What keywords are we talking about really? Where's that finding them from? And that's on each of the pages. So if I come down to, let's try hybrid working, see if we've got another one. These will just come up in that list. We haven't added them. Hopefully, here we go. So this one, we've added some keywords to that particular page. So this page, which is about hybrid working resources, that's a page that we added under latest. We gave it some particular keywords which included digital leadership, hybrid working, and stay home. So those were the things that we wanted people to be able to search on, those particular words. And then when they search on those words, it will come up in that list. So if I come back to my latest page now, you can see they're coming up here in this list, hybrid working. If I click on that now, that's the only one that comes up about that. I can also tick digital leadership and it comes up in that list as well. But if I tick on audio visual, for example, it's not in that list because it didn't have that keyword on the page. So this is how we can start kind of building a more of a resource section or a news section. What I can also do is use keywords to display particular sections in particular ways. So I'm just going to give you an example. Croyd and Mencap, who are using voice. And if I go to their team page, I'll send you the links to these afterwards. This team is called Central Services. If I scroll down the page, they've got another part of the team called Enterprise Lounge, and they've got some people listed underneath, the team members. Then they've got Family Advocacy and Support Team. Then they've got the Saturday Club. So they've sectioned their page all the way down with different teams. And what they've actually done is on it, so that this is their team page. This is a filtered item list. All of these people, these are all individual pages, Catherine, Carol, Dee, Emily, they're all separate pages. Each of these pages, Catherine, Carol, Emily, in the edit will have the keyword central services. So they've got the keyword central services, all the people in the Enterprise Lounge, Emma, Liz, Jenny, each of those individual pages have the term Enterprise Lounge in each of those pages. And again, the same all the way down. That's a separate filtered item list that will have family advocacy probably as the keyword. And if I were to do the same in my site, let's come back to news, for example, here. If I come into layout and I want to add an includelet based on keywords, let's just say I want the keyword foraging to be on the foraging one. So I'm going to let's do, in edit, I've put the word foraging. Save as a new revision and publish. On my next page, I'm just going to have this as cooking. and save as new revision and publish. And on the next news page, I'm also going to have cooking and save as new revision and publish. Let's do that again. So filtered item list, I'll leave it in a panel for now. I'm going to make it a grid, and parent, we can have news. Leave it as children. This time I'm going to say I want my first one to be foraging. So I'm going to use the keyword foraging that's on those pages. And let's just show everything. I don't know whether they've got images or not. Leave all of that as they are. And then I'm going to add my second includelet. Filtered item list. Let's do a different panel color. Select items, news, children, that's all fine. This time I put in the word cooking, title and subtitle. Let's have the related image. I don't know if they've got them, and save changes. So now I've got two filtered item lists. One had the word foraging, one was searching for cooking, and hopefully if I publish, just bear with me a second. Hopefully now my news page, when I go and have a look at it, should have, there we go, they're down there. There's foraging and there's two. And that you can see I needed to make some changes to the way in which they displayed. So I didn't change this one into a grid. This one was in a grid, ignore the bit at the top. So that one is the one that had foraging on, and I've displayed that one. And then I've had one with cooking, and I've displayed that one differently. So that's how you can start to divide content over your site.